Today's Lions Talk Live, we're going to dive into a topic that's been roughly 2 years in the making. And that's right, now that our season's over, Lions Talk Live, we're going to start analyzing in the week to come the team in review, year in review, rookies in review, etc. But before we get into that later in the week and early next week, we're going to dive in today in the topic of all topics. Who won the Matthew Stafford versus Jared Goff trade? What does it say about Brad Holmes? What's it say about the Detroit Lions organization? And maybe even Sean McVay and the LA Rams. We're going to get into all that and maybe just a little bit more in today's deep dive version of Lions Talk Live. Well, greetings and salutations to everybody out there in YouTube land. I'm your host once again, Dan Thornton. I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in, making time out of your day to take in Lions Talk Live. If you haven't yet subscribed, please consider doing so. Takes you maybe a second and a half to hit the subscription button, maybe leave a thumbs up, and maybe even a comment in the section below. Now, what we're doing with today's video is that we're going to break down, now that we know most of the data and information on, who's going to come from the Rams and go to Detroit, all those things that have been affected by draft picks, all that stuff. What can we say about Goff now 2 years in? What can we say about Stafford now 2 years in with the Rams? So we're going to start off by analyzing the former quarterback of Detroit, Matthew Stafford. Let's do a real quick recap on Brad Holmes. He was one of the players of scouting and directing the draft for the Rams for a number of years. He played a part in the Rams trading up to get the number 1 overall pick and taking Jared Goff. He's somebody who, in his estimates, thinks Goff is a high-value commodity that they might be able to get for pennies on the dollar because of emotional problems between Sean McVay, the LA Rams coach, and their current star quarterback, Jared Goff. McVay has become disenfranchised with Goff, but he's become in love with the idea of getting a strong-arm quarterback like Matthew Stafford. So Brad Holmes, I think, I don't have any inside knowledge to know this, but he knows that somebody is looking at his quarterback like he wants to dump his girlfriend and go for the hot, sexy new thing. So he listens to McVay's words. He understands how emotionally invested and illogical McVay has become. And he goes ahead and makes a call and says, we'll do the deal, but you need to give us this. And what they got for a 7 more years old quarterback with a ton more injuries needs to be talked about here. Let's imagine your early 30s quarterback who's already had a few very serious injuries to your back, your shoulder, etc. during your time in Detroit. And now you're being asked to look at a new GM come through the door, a new coach, another rebuild of your team, and you've already gone through that a number of times. If you're Matthew Stafford at that point, you're probably like, hey, I've seen this show before. I need out of here. So you go and talk to your new owners and your new GM, and you tell Brad Holmes you want out of here. Brad Holmes, who we all know is an outside-of-the-box thinker. I mean, just look at what he's done with the draft picks. Look at what he's done with T.J. Hockenson in that trade. But you're going to analyze all things and say, where can I get my maximum value? So you talk to the Carolina Panthers, you talk to the 49ers, and then you make a call to your former team, the Los Angeles Rams, who their head coach is not in love with his current quarterback, the former number 1 overall quarterback, Jared Goff. You devise a plan to get maximum value for your aging and a little bit beat up quarterback, and you may have pulled off one of the biggest heists in the NFL since the Herschel Walker trade. So, the Lions get 2 first-round picks. They cannot get one of the first year of the trade because that one's already gone bye-bye. But they did get one in 2022, which has turned into Jameson Williams. But let's also not forget the backside of that. Not only did we move up in the draft to get Jameson Williams, but we moved down in the second round and got Joshua Pascal. I believe by 2023, both of these individuals will be starters for the Detroit Lions. Pascal has already been starting a number of games in 2022. So the first bit of Brad Holmes' plan and what he's getting for Matthew Stafford and getting a return from the Rams is turning out to produce gold. They also got a third-round pick that they used just the year before and got in. Boy, I'm going to kill his name, so I'm just going to say Iffy, the cornerback now safety in Detroit, who has started 2 games and has shown signs of slowly developing, working his way up the charts. Now, we go on to the 2023 draft, and Brad Holmes' plan to unload an aging, beat-up quarterback. Even though I love Matthew Stafford, those are the facts. He is 7 years older, and he does have a lot more injuries than Jared Goff. So we get a home run with that pick in 2023. That pick's going to end up being the number 6 pick in all the NFL draft. But Brad Holmes dives further into all this. He says, I think I can bleed the Rams for even more. He understands that just a year prior to this trade, the Rams signed Jared Goff off of a big monster year for this young quarterback to a massive contract at the time. Brad Holmes understands that there's no way in heck that the Rams are going to keep both Stafford and Goff. And they're not going to cut Goff and get nothing out of it. So he says, I've got calls from other teams, like your massive counterpart in your division, the 49ers, and I've got this other guy over here, the Carolina Panthers, who's offering me the 2021 number 8 overall pick. There might even be a few other things thrown in there, but I think that's the biggest point with that, with the Carolina option. So he bleeds them for basically the number 1 overall pick, which again, younger, less beat up, but has fallen out of favor. So Brad Holmes pulls off perhaps one of the more monster trades ever and establishes the foundation for the climb that we see currently in Detroit, and a climb that's still in development with this last pick coming up in the spring with the number 6 overall draft pick. So I'm sure any Lions fan is aware, though, in Stafford's last 3 to 4 years, the back injuries started mounting up, and then you saw one of Matt Patricia's best chances to pull off a turnaround in Detroit go down the drain when Stafford, against the Chicago Bears, is ruled out because of a lower back injury. That time, they hadn't yet ruled him out for the rest of the year, but in the weeks that would come afterwards, it was determined that the quarterback for the Lions could no longer go on that particular season, and that he was going to have to be shelved for the remainder of the year just to protect that injury and help it recover. Now, move 2 seasons on beyond that to Stafford's final year in Detroit. Once again, back injuries pop up, limiting the amount of games he can play, and what do you know? A table has been established that perhaps Brad Holmes needs to consider, does he try to talk Matthew Stafford and remaining a Detroit Lion, or does he think that perhaps Stafford's best health years are behind him, and this quarterback is starting to show signs of wear, tear, and age? All right, now that we've laid the foundation for the backstory of all of what's going on with this trade and the remnants of it for that's already taken place and what will happen in this spring's upcoming draft, let's look at both quarterbacks. Let's look at just, each of their first 7 seasons in the league. I think if you do a deep dive into their stats, they're ultimately not that dissimilar, except one important stat. Stafford throws interceptions during those first 7 seasons, roughly nearly 30 more than Jared Goff. While it is true Goff did throw 8 less touchdowns during that time frame, you look at their yards, their completion percentages, etc., and they're fairly identical. There is one other thing that we all need to keep in mind at that point, since we're just trying to compare where Goff has gone in this point in his career compared to where Stafford is at that point in his career. Because Stafford obviously has played significantly longer in the league than Jared Goff. If you look at them, though, they're both fairly equal statistically, other than, like I said, the interceptions. But there is one other major difference disregarding the age, and that's the injury history. Up until that point, Stafford had already sustained a significant shoulder injury, plus a number of injuries to his lower back. Nothing with the back that kept him out of games yet. So with Jared Goff, you do have a guy that in his first couple of years in the league with the Rams, he's up and down. His first year, like most rookie quarterbacks, is not very good. The second year, McVay comes in and helps revitalize Goff in the LA Ram offense. He takes off, does a lot of good, promising things. He's the talk of the NFL as one of the more up-and-coming quarterbacks. Then the Super Bowl year happens for the Rams where Goff's just off the charts. Yes, he is helped by a strong running game in LA, but I throw this to everybody out there. Who doesn't look better as a quarterback when you have a strong running game to set up play action, etc.? Whatever it may be, after that year, the Rams gave him a massive, at the time, contract, no longer as massive by today's standards. But just 12 short months later, McVay has fallen out of favor with his beloved quarterback and says it's time for him to go bye-bye. We need somebody a little bit more to win this Super Bowl. And to his credit, he does get the Super Bowl. But now, here we are in 2022, and what can we say reviewing this trade? I'm an LA Rams fan right about now. I'm jumping up and down saying, I don't care what happened, we got a Super Bowl out of this trade. And yes, you did. But as we all also knew in the offseason afterwards, in review, Stafford's elbow injury starts popping up, putting his career in question. Now he gets into the season, and a back injury that had already popped up over the last 4 to 5 years prior starts flaring up again, and now it's extending because of the pressure on the spine into the lower column of his neck and head, causing a number of concussion worries, plus potential long-term worries with his back and spine that his wife is openly talking about on social media, perhaps even hinting that the quarterback should retire. We all know as of today, Stafford is talking about returning, but I think you can clearly see a trend with this young man. The injuries are mounting and they don't go away. Like Bill Parcells once said, once the tread starts coming off the tire, it doesn't come back. Stafford, older, more beat up than Goff, is starting to really bring into question how much longer he can play in the league. Now, let's move on to Jared Goff. Now just 2 days away from the end of the season, a season that ended with a big upset win in Green Bay, knocking the Packers out of any potential playoff spots while giving the Lions their first winning season in what feels like an eternity. The Goff, the offense, and Detroit are now back on everybody's maps as potentially one of the best up-and-coming teams in the league. Goff, by no means old for a quarterback in the NFL, isn't even yet 30, and has no major injury issues, unlike his predecessor in Detroit, Matthew Stafford. Goff is starting to show real command of the offense, while Stafford is considering potentially retirement if his wife gets his way. Goff continues to lead the offense up and down the field, goes 9 straight games without an interception, doesn't leave him very short of the NFL record. You'll see one of those pictures in the background here that gives you all the information pertaining to that. Goff also completes a near high in completion percentage while throwing for over 4,000 yards and just shy of 30 touchdowns. Some of Goff's touchdowns might have gone up higher if teammate Jamal Williams doesn't rush for a team record 17 touchdowns. So with the combination of Jamal Williams, DeAndre Swift, the offensive line, and the budding offense that they're in, Goff is on projections to revitalize his career, fully healthy, and now is the talk about with national media throughout the NFL. I think anybody who was a Lions fan in 2021 said, Goff ain't looking so great, we need to move on. But then the last 6 games of the season happened where Amon-Ra St. Brown emerged. The rookie had learned enough how to play, plus a switch in offensive coordinators in Detroit, along with the addition of an old Goff friend from Los Angeles, Josh Reynolds. With these 3 on the field, plus an emerging young offensive coordinator and Ben Johnson understanding how to get the maximum value out of some of these players, Goff's career in those last 6 games of the 2021 season gravely changed. Goff, just by those last 6 games, becomes the number 4 quarterback in all the NFL. I get that's not a full season, but you get a sample size of what Ben Johnson, Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Khalif Raymond, Josh Reynolds can do to start changing the offense. And Goff's numbers continue to rise this season. As we've already noted in this video, Goff pulled off the big win in the frozen tundra of Green Bay in roughly 15-degree weather at night. He also has won in Chicago in the cold, New York 2 times in the cold, so the narrative pertaining to that, along with his lack of arm talent to throw it deep, should start changing. Because in fairness to him, he's won a number of games in the cold and thrown it deep almost better than anybody in the NFL during 2021. What I can say in review, trying to be as fair as possible, Stafford was a great quarterback for the Lions who was mismanaged throughout his career. Goff was a great quarterback in development in LA, but for whatever reasons, known to us or not known to us, Sean McVay and all of his offensive mind genius decided to go with a 7-year-old quarterback with major injury question marks to get 1 game. Would the Rams have won it with Jared Goff? We'll never know. But what we can say is the LA Rams went all in on one particular player to hope to take them to the promised land, And then halfway through the season, when they saw Stafford was struggling a little bit, said, we need to shore up this defense, and traded even more future draft capital to get Von Miller. Von Miller, as you all know, left the team shortly thereafter. And this year, the Rams took a big nosedive, which was a big surprise and positive for the Detroit Lions. So we don't know yet what the Detroit Lions will do with that number 6 pick in the NFL draft in just 2 months. But we can say this. It would appear, based on prior draft success under Brad Holmes in both of his 2 drafts, that there's no reason to believe he won't pull off some genius moves or draft pick selections in the upcoming draft. So in review, what can we say about these 2 teams? You have the LA Rams, who took the biggest nosedive by a defending Super Bowl champions ever with a quarterback, like we've pointed out a number of times in this video, that's been highly beat up the last 5 years and showing some real signs of age, while having his family say, no mas, it's time to check out. Conversely, you have Goff, who's 7 years younger, no notable injuries as far as his history, on an upward trend, not even 30. And what do you know? He's become the talk of the town. All the nagging haters who out there who had said Goff can't throw it deep, well, look at the stats who's thrown the most deep balls in the NFL. Yes, he's not number 1 or 2, but you're going to find him just below those guys as far as the most quarterback passes of over 50 yards and 40 yards in the NFL. You also see in a number of the Lions' wins this year, the other knock on Goff was he couldn't win outside. That's no longer the case. Say about the Lions in review. Jared Goff did bring stability to the quarterback position, unlike anybody would have anticipated at the time of the trade. Everybody viewed Goff as just a throw in, take this guy off our hands. We'll give you another first-round draft pick, and we're good to go. You eat that salary for a while. What nobody probably really anticipated, other than perhaps Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, is this kid could play. Like I said before, early in the video, Brad Holmes was the man who helped orchestrate the trade up for the Rams to get this guy. He had intrinsic information that apparently he said, we want that guy, no matter if you're throwing him in or cutting him, whatever, we're going to go get him. And what we can say now in review of Detroit is the projection of the Lions rose much faster, thanks in large to this trade and the subsequent trades it brought on for the Lions, which we've already noted, so I won't repeat them. So what does this all mean for 2023? Well, if you've been a coach, a player, or just a fan of sports, you know this. Nothing's guaranteed, but the Lions are one of the youngest teams in all the NFL with a very young and healthy quarterback under center. If these trends continue, along with more draft success, which Brad Holmes seems intrinsically tied to, the Lions really are setting up for a run to be the dominant team or a dominant team in the NFL for the next 3 to 5 years. All right, if this video went on a little too long, I do apologize for it. It is the off season now if you're a Detroit Lions fan. Like I pointed out, the rest of this week, we're going to do a 2022 review, just kind of talk about the team throughout the season. Then we're going to do a review of the rookies. And then next week, we're also going to start diving into what do we think we should target for free agency, our first mock draft, etc. Our mock drafts are also going to include our thoughts on why this team should go for this player. What is the strengths of this player, not just from a physical standpoint, but to me, the most missed and misunderstood part about when you're drafting players is the personality traits of a player. Do they have the right personality traits internally to match what the coaches in office want to get out of somebody? I think we all know that there are players that are great, physical specimens, but for whatever reason, maybe they're just not that into the game. That needs to be something, in my opinion, if you're going to do a mock draft, you need to dive into. What is the core personality traits of that player? All right, I'm probably babbling a little too much today. Maybe I had a few too many Mountain Dews. But whatever it is, I hope you all have a great day. Thank you for tuning into Lions Talk Live. If you haven't yet subscribed, please consider doing so. And we'll see you all tomorrow on another Lions Talk Live.